Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the strange vessel approach through the darkness of space. It was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered before, with curves and angles that seemed to flow like water frozen in time, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed gently across its hull. This was the moment Earth had been preparing for since they first ventured beyond their solar system. 15 years ago? Distance to unknown vessel? Daniel asked calmly, though his heart raced with excitement and nervousness. 40,000 kilometers and holding position. Sir, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported from her weapons station, her fingers hovering over the console without actually touching any controls. They had orders to appear friendly and non-threatening. As communication officer spoke up suddenly, her voice filled with barely contained excitement. Captain, we're receiving a transmission on multiple frequencies. It appears to be attempting different language protocols. Put it through, Daniel ordered, straightening his uniform and moving to the center of the bridge where the holographic display would project. The image that appeared was both familiar and alien at the same time, bipedal like humans, but with skin that shimmered in shades of purple and silver, with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern on their face, and hands that had 6 fingers instead of 5. Greetings from the Voxian Confederation, the alien said through the translator, which converted the words into English with only a slight mechanical tone. I am Ambassador Kralthor, sent to establish peaceful relations with your species. Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. The alien had used the word peaceful right at the start, which was exactly what humanity had hoped for. I am Captain Daniel Carter of the Earth Defense Force vessel Horizon. He responded with a slight bow, copying a gesture he had seen in the first contact protocols. We welcome you and your peaceful intentions, Ambassador. The next several hours passed in a blur of cultural exchanges, careful diplomacy, and the sharing of basic information about both civilizations. The basic information of basic information about both civilizations. The boastness. Voxians were part of something called the Galactic Confederation, a group of 47 different species who cooperated for mutual benefit and protection. Commander Voronek, the Voxian military observer who accompanied the ambassador, seemed particularly interested in human technology and defensive capabilities, asking questions about Earth's ships and weapons in a casual, almost friendly manner. Your vessel is quite impressive for such a young spacefaring species, Voronek commented, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. How long have your people been traveling between stars? Only about 15 years, Amy answered when Daniel nodded for her to respond. We've been cautious and methodical in our exploration. Krelther made a sound that the translator interpreted as approval. A wise approach. Many young species expand too quickly and encounter difficulties. Tell us, what defensive systems does your vessel employ? Daniel saw no reason to hide this information. After all, the Voxians had freely shared details about their own energy shields and plasma cannons. Lieutenant Rodriguez, would you provide our guests with an overview of the Horizon's defensive capabilities? He asked. Amy stood and activated a holographic display that showed a 3-dimensional model of their ship. We have multi-layered composite armor designed to absorb kinetic and thermal impacts. Point defense laser arrays for intercepting incoming missiles and debris. Electronic countermeasure suites for jamming enemy targeting systems. And our primary armament consists of 6 railgun batteries, positioned along the forward and lateral sections of the hull. The silence that followed was so complete that Daniel could hear his own heartbeat. Both Voxian representatives had frozen completely, their bodies rigid as if someone had turned them to stone. Krelthers. Translator struggled for a moment before producing words. I apologize, but could you repeat that last part about your primary armament? Amy glanced at Daniel with confusion before responding. Our railgun batteries? They're standard kinetic acceleration weapons. We use electromagnetic fields to launch projectiles at high velocity, typically between 3 and 5% of light speed, depending on the power setting. Voronak made a choking sound that the translator couldn't interpret, and his skin shifted from purple to a pale gray color. How many of these weapons does your fleet possess? Krelther asked, and there was something different in his voice. Now something that sounded almost like fear. Daniel felt the first stirrings of concern but answered, honestly, the Horizon has 6 batteries, and we have 12 ships of this class currently in active service, plus another 30 vessels of various sizes equipped with smaller railgun systems for defense. Is something wrong, Ambassador? The two Voxians exchanged looks that clearly communicated alarm, and Krelther spoke rapidly in his own language before the translator caught up. Captain Carter, we must request an immediate private conference with our home-world leadership. This is a matter of extreme urgency. Of course, Daniel agreed, trying to keep his tone calm and diplomatic. We'll give you complete privacy for your communications. As soon as the transmission to the Voxian ship was secured on their end, Amy turned to her captain with worry clear on her face. Sir, what just happened? She asked. Did I say something wrong about our weapons? Daniel shook his head slowly, watching the Voxian vessel on the main screen. I don't know, Lieutenant, but whatever it was, it scared them badly. I've never seen someone react like that to a simple weapons description. The communications officer spoke up hesitantly. Captain, I'm picking up encrypted burst transmissions from the Voxian ship heading in multiple directions. They're not just calling home. They're sending messages to at least a dozen different locations. Can you decrypt them? Daniel asked. No, sir. The encryption is far beyond our current capabilities. She admitted. Daniel sat down in his command chair and considered their options carefully. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was not going according to plan, and he had no idea what they had done to cause such a dramatic reaction. All stations remain at yellow alert, he ordered. Maintain friendly posture, but keep our sensors active. I want to know immediately if anything changes. Amy returned to her weapon station and ran a diagnostic on the railgun systems, checking to make sure everything was functioning properly. She couldn't understand what was so alarming about electromagnetic acceleration technology. It was basic physics that any civilization with electricity should understand. The hours ticked by slowly as they waited for the Voxians to finish their communications. Daniel tried to review everything they had said during the exchange, looking for any possible offense or misunderstanding. But he kept coming back to the moment when Amy mentioned the railguns. That was clearly the trigger. But why? Finally, after nearly 6 hours of waiting, Krelther's image appeared on the screen again. But he looked different, now older somehow, and deeply troubled. Captain Carter, the ambassador began carefully. My government has instructed me to continue our dialogue, but there are matters we must discuss regarding your weapons technology. Matters of great importance to the entire galaxy. Daniel leaned forward in his chair. We're listening, Ambassador, and we want to understand what concerns you. Krelther seemed to gather himself before speaking. Captain, do your people understand what railgun technology represents to the rest of the galaxy? Do you know the history of these weapons among the stars? No, Daniel admitted honestly. We developed them independently based on our own scientific understanding. Are they common among other species? The ambassador's expression would have been unreadable to someone who didn't know what fear looked like. Common? No, Captain, they are forbidden. High Counselor Zephrane received the emergency transmission from Ambassador Krelther and felt his heart skip several beats in rapid succession. The message was marked with the highest priority code, one that hadn't been used in over 3 centuries, and the content made his skin turn cold despite the warm temperature of his chambers. They have railguns, he whispered to himself. reading the report again to make sure he understood correctly. The humans have developed railgun technology, and they don't even know what it means. He immediately summoned the Galactic Council for an emergency session and contacted Admiral Kyle Bennett of the Earth Defense Force through the quantum communication link that had been established. Just days ago, for diplomatic purposes, Kyle was reviewing supply reports when the call came through. He had been expecting routine follow-up discussions about trade and cultural exchange, not the grim face of an alien leader who looked like he had just witnessed something terrible. Admiral Bennett Zephyr began without the usual pleasantries. "We need to discuss your weapons technology immediately, specifically your railgun systems." Kyle felt confusion wash over him. "Our railguns?" "Counselor, those are just standard kinetic weapons. We've had the basic technology for over 200 years. The alien leader closed all three of his eyes slowly before opening them again. "Admiral, I must tell you a story that every species in the galaxy knows. A story that has shaped our civilization for the past 8 centuries. Kyle settled into his chair and activated the recording systems. Something in Zephyr's tone told him this was going to be important. "Long ago, before my people joined the Confederation, there was an empire called the Catharn," Zephyr began. "They were a powerful species, advanced in many areas of technology. But their scientists made a discovery that would change the galaxy forever. They learned how to accelerate matter using electromagnetic fields." Kyle's expression shifted to concern as he began to understand where this was going. "The Catharn built weapons that could fire projectiles at enormous speeds," the counselor continued. "They started small, but within a century, they had perfected the technology. Their railguns could launch metal slugs at 5% of light speed, and each impact released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. That's similar to our current capabilities," Kyle admitted quietly. Zephyr's voice grew heavier. "The Catharn used these weapons to conquer 43 star systems in just 50 years. Their railguns could strike targets from distances far beyond the range of energy weapons. And there was no defense against solid projectiles traveling at such speed. Shields designed for energy absorption were useless. An armor simply vaporized on impact." Kyle leaned forward. "What happened to them?" "The rest of the galaxy united against them," Zephyr explained. "It took us 117 years to defeat the Catharn Empire. Billions died in the conflict. Entire worlds were reduced to rubble from railgun bombardment. And 3 species went completely extinct." The weight of this history settled on Kyle's shoulders like a physical burden. "When we finally won," the counselor went on, "the surviving civilizations made a pact. All railgun technology would be destroyed, every blueprint erased. Every scientist who worked on the project would be re-educated. We swore that no species would ever again develop or deploy kinetic acceleration weapons beyond basic mass drivers for cargo transport." "It became galactic law?" Kyle asked. "More than law," Zephyr corrected. "It became the foundation of our peace for 800 years. No civilization has broken this prohibition, and the galaxy has known relative stability." Kyle felt his stomach drop as the full implications became clear. "And now Earth has developed this technology completely independently." "Not just developed it," Zephyr said grimly. "Your report indicates you have deployed it across your entire fleet as standard armament. Ambassador Krulther tells me your ships carry multiple railgun batteries, and you speak of them casually as if they were ordinary defensive tools." Kyle stood and paced his office. "Counselor, I need to consult with our scientists and government leaders. We had no idea this technology carried such significance. Within hours, there Lisa Chang found herself in a high-level meeting with Earth's top officials, explaining the physics behind railgun technology to people who only understood that their peaceful exploration fleet had apparently terrified the galaxy. "It's just electromagnetic acceleration," Lisa explained. gesturing at the diagrams on her screen. We use superconducting coils to generate powerful magnetic fields, which push conductive projectiles down a barrel. The longer the barrel and the stronger the fields, the faster the projectile goes. And this is considered war crime technology? President Marcus Webb asked from his seat at the head of the conference table, according to the Voxians. Yes, Admiral Kyle Bennett confirmed. They say the last civilization to deploy these weapons nearly conquered half the galaxy. Lisa shook her head in disbelief. But the physics is straightforward. Any species with electrical technology should be able to figure this out. Apparently, they choose not to, Kyle replied. After their war with the Catharn Empire, the galactic civilizations agreed to prohibit this entire line of weapons development. What are our options? The president asked before anyone could answer. The communications alert sounded. The Galactic Council was requesting an immediate session with Earth's leadership. The holographic chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien species, each one looking at the human delegation with expressions ranging from fear to outright hostility. Historian Telmer, an ancient being from a species that had survived the Catharn Wars, spoke first in a voice that trembled with old memories. We watched worlds burn under railgun fire. I was young when the Catharn came to my home system, and I remember the sky turning white as their projectiles struck our cities from orbit. President Webb spoke carefully. Historian Telmer, we deeply regret awakening such painful memories. Humanity developed this technology in isolation, without knowledge of galactic history or laws. Ignorance is no excuse, declared Counselor Threndak, an aggressive-looking being from the Harvan Collective. You possess weapons of mass destruction that are banned by civilizations across the galaxy. You must disarm immediately. With respect, Dr. Lisa Chang interjected. We cannot simply abandon technology that we developed through our own scientific research. Railguns are integrated into our entire defense strategy. Then you admit you refuse to comply with galactic law? Threndak challenged Admiral Bennett to step forward. We admit that we need time to understand the situation and discuss our options. You can't expect us to strip our defenses based on laws we didn't know existed until a few hours ago. The council chamber erupted in dozens of alien languages, all speaking at once. Some voices called for patience and diplomacy, while others demanded immediate action against the human threat. High Counselor Zephyrain raised his hands for silence. The Confederation will deliberate on this matter. Humanity will be given 48 hours to present their response to the Council's concerns. As the session ended, Kyle turned to President Webb. Sir, we need to prepare for the possibility that they won't accept any answer we give them. You think they'll attack? Webb asked quietly. I think they're terrified, Kyle replied. And fear makes people do dangerous things. We need to alert our fleet and prepare for any scenario. Lisa looked at the data on her tablet. Running calculations. Admiral, if they do send ships against us, our railguns have twice the effective range of their energy weapons based on what the Voxians shared about their technology. That won't comfort them, Kyle said grimly. That's exactly what scares them across the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened in secret session. Counselor Threndak argued passionately for immediate military intervention. We cannot allow another Catharn Empire to rise. We must strike now while they are still weak and unprepared. They demonstrated no hostile intentions, Zephyrain countered. They shared their technology openly during first contact, because they don't yet understand what they possess, Threndak insisted. But when they realize the power they hold, do you truly believe they will remain peaceful? The vote was close, but fear won over hope. The Council authorized the deployment of a peacekeeping fleet to Earth with orders to enforce disarmament by whatever means necessary. No one bothered to inform humanity that warships were already on their way. The ceasefire held for exactly 3 hours before everything started falling apart again. Commander Jake Morrison watched his sensors carefully as the alien fleet maintained their position just outside weapons range. But he could see smaller vessels detaching from the main group and moving in different directions. They're deploying scouts. Science Officer Patricia Kim reported. 12 light craft breaking formation and spreading out in a search pattern. Jake felt his jaw tighten. What are they looking for? Unknown, sir, Patricia replied, but their trajectory suggests they're trying to get sensor readings on our other defense installations on the bridge of the alien flagship. Fleet Commander Sil Rith reviewed the latest intelligence reports from his scout vessels. His orders from the Galactic Council had been clear but contradictory. Establish peaceful contact while also preparing for forced disarmament if necessary. Sir, the human defense network is more extensive than we initially estimated, his tactical officer reported. We've identified at least 6 major orbital platforms, 32 armed vessels of various sizes, and multiple ground-based installations with railgun capabilities. Silrith's skin shifted to a darker shade that indicated stress. How many total railgun batteries? Conservative estimate places it at over 200 weapon systems. The officer said quietly, each capable of the kind of destruction we witnessed earlier. The fleet commander realized with growing concern that his 30 ships were vastly outnumbered in terms of effective firepower. The humans might have fewer vessels, but each one carried weapons that could strike from distances his fleet couldn't. Match Admiral Kyle Bennett coordinated Earth's defensive posture from his command center, pulling up tactical displays that showed every asset humanity had scattered. Across near-Earth space, we need to present a united front without appearing aggressive. That's a delicate balance. His second-in-command observed. Everything about this situation is delicate. Bennett agreed. Get me Commander Morrison and Captain Grant on a joint channel. Captain Olivia. Grant commanded a squadron of 6 fighter craft that patrolled the space between Earth and Mars. Her ships were small and fast, designed for interception and escort duties rather than heavy combat, but each one carried a single railgun for self-defense. Admiral, my squadron is ready for whatever you need. Olivia reported crisply when the connection was established. I need you to perform a training exercise. Bennett told her, standard combat maneuvers at full speed. I want those alien sensors to get a good look at what our pilots can do. Olivia grinned despite the tension. Understood, sir, putting on a show. Jake Morrison added his own insight. Admiral, I think the demonstration helped, but they're still probing our defenses. They need to understand we're not just powerful. We're also controlled and disciplined. Agreed, Bennett said. That's why I want Grant's squadron running drills. Show them precision and coordination, not just raw firepower. Olivia and her pilots launched into a complex series of maneuvers that had been designed originally for training new recruits. Their fighters twisted and dove through 3-dimensional space, maintaining perfect formation. Even at speeds that would crush most alien species under the G-forces, Noxian sensors tracked every movement. And Fleet Commander Silrith watched in growing amazement as the human pilots executed maneuvers that should have been impossible. How are they surviving those acceleration forces? Their home world has significantly higher gravity than standard. His science officer explained. Evolution on what they call Earth made them remarkably resilient to physical stress, so they're naturally tougher than most species. Silrith muttered. And they have weapons that outrange ours by double, and they fly like their lives depend on it. There's more, sir. The officer continued nervously. Analysis of their ship movements suggests reaction times 30% faster than Confederation average. Their neural processing appears to be optimized for rapid decision-making. Silrith felt the weight of his situation growing heavier. He had been sent to intimidate a species that was proving to be far more formidable than anyone had anticipated, Captain. Olivia Grant brought her squadron through a final maneuver that sent them spiraling around each other in a complex pattern before they reformed into perfect diamond formation. She knew the alien fleet was watching, and she wanted them to see that human pilots were not just skilled but confident, nice flying people. She told her squadron over the comm, "Let's head home." As the fighters returned to their carrier, Admiral Bennett received a priority communication from President Webb. "Admiral, High Counselor Zephrane has informed me that there's a faction in the Galactic Council pushing for immediate military action. We may not have as much time as we thought." "Sir, we've shown them we can defend ourselves," Bennett argued. "Surely that should give them pause." "It's giving some of them pause," Webb confirmed, "but others see our capabilities as proof that we're too dangerous to be left armed." Counselor Threndak is demanding a vote on authorization for full-scale enforcement. Jake Morrison listened to the exchange and made a decision. "Admiral, request permission to contact Fleet Commander Silrith directly, military to military." Bennett considered this. "What do you have in mind?" "He's a soldier following orders," Jake explained. "But he's also someone who just watched us choose not to kill his entire fleet when we had the chance. Maybe he'll listen to reason." "Do it?" Bennett authorized when the connection was established. Jake spoke bluntly. "Fleet Commander, we both know how this ends if shooting starts. Your ships will be destroyed before you can get into effective range." Silreth's expression was grim. "I am aware of the tactical situation, Commander Morrison, but that's not what I want to talk about." Jake continued, "I want to know if you believe we're the threat your council thinks we are." The alien commander was silent for a long moment. "Honestly, I don't know what to believe. Your weapons are exactly as terrifying as our history warned us they would be." "But," Jake prompted, "but you had us helpless and you chose to destroy a rock instead." Silrith admitted, "The Kathon would never have shown such restraint. They would have gloried in demonstrating their power against living targets." "Then help us," Jake urged. "Tell your council what you saw here. Tell them we're not the Kathon. Empire reborn." Silrith looked at something off-screen before responding. "I have already sent my report. Commander, I told the council that humanity demonstrated both overwhelming tactical superiority and remarkable restraint. Did it make a difference?" Jake asked. "Some council members are reconsidering their position," Silrith said carefully. "Others remain convinced you must be disarmed, regardless of your intentions. Fear is a powerful force. So is trust," Jake countered. "And trust has to start somewhere." "Fleet Commander." Silrith made a choice that would define his career. "Commander Morrison, I am formally proposing a face-to-face meeting between our leadership, neutral ground. Limited security details, honest dialogue. I'll recommend it to my superiors." Jake promised. When Admiral Bennett heard the proposal, he immediately took it to President Webb. "Sir, this could be our chance to de-escalate." Webb considered the risks. "Or it could be a trap." "Silrith had us in his sights and chose not to fire," Bennett reminded him. "Just like we had him in our sights and chose not to fire. Maybe mutual restraint is enough to build on. Set it up." Webb decided, "But choose the location carefully, somewhere that favors neither side." Within hours, both sides agreed to meet at a neutral station near Jupiter, far enough from Earth that the humans couldn't easily reinforce, but close enough that they could respond if needed. The alien fleet would maintain position while a small delegation traveled to the meeting point as preparations began. High Counselor Zephrane sent a private message to President Webb. "I hope you understand the opportunity before us. This could be the first step toward true peace. Or it could be the last chance to avoid a war neither of our peoples can afford." Webb typed his response carefully. "We understand. Counselor, humanity is ready to talk." Commander Jake Morrison was finishing his second cup of coffee when the alarms started blaring throughout the defense station sentinel. He had been reviewing maintenance schedules for the orbital platform that protected Earth's lunar installations. not expecting anything more exciting than paperwork and routine patrols. "Commander, we have multiple contacts entering the system," Science Officer Patricia Kim called out from her station, her voice tight with tension. "I'm counting at least 30 vessels of unknown configuration approaching from the outer rim." Jake set down his coffee and moved quickly to the command center. "Distance and trajectory? They're at the edge of our sensor range, approximately 2 million kilometers out and closing," Patricia reported, her fingers dancing across her console as she gathered data. "Their formation suggests military organization. Have they responded to our identification requests?" Jake asked, feeling his pulse quicken. "Negative, sir," the communications officer replied. "We've sent greetings on all standard frequencies, but they're maintaining radio silence." Jake considered his options carefully. Earth had been on high alert since the tense Galactic Council session yesterday, but no one had expected an actual fleet to arrive this quickly. "Bring all defensive systems online," he ordered. "And get me a direct line to Admiral Bennett immediately." On Earth, President Marcus Webb was in the middle of preparing humanity's formal response to the Council's demands when news of the approaching fleet reached him. He had been crafting careful diplomatic language about gradual disarmament and technology sharing, not preparing for an invasion. How long until they reach Earth? He demanded, at current speed, approximately 6 hours. Admiral Kyle Bennett informed him through the secure channel. "Commander Morrison has the Sentinel on full alert, and we're scrambling every available ship to defensive positions. Have they made any hostile moves?" Webb asked. "Not yet," Bennett admitted. "But they're not responding to our hails either. It's textbook intimidation tactics." Webb slammed his hand on the desk. "Get me High Counselor Zephyr now. We need to know what's happening." But when the connection was established, Zephyr looked genuinely shocked. "President Webb, I knew nothing of this fleet deployment. The council session ended with agreement to wait for your response." "Then who authorized this?" Webb demanded. "I will investigate immediately," Zephyr promised. But his expression suggested he already suspected the answer on the Sentinel. Patricia Kim ran continuous scans of the approaching vessels. "Commander, I'm analyzing their weapon signatures based on the data Ambassador Krelther shared about Voxian technology. These ships are equipped with plasma cannons and energy beam arrays. What's their effective range?" Jake asked. Patricia pulled up the technical specifications. "According to the information we received, plasma weapons have maximum effective range of about 50,000 kilometers. Energy beams can reach maybe 75,000 in optimal conditions." Jake felt something click in his mind. "And our railguns?" "Sir, our magnetic acceleration systems can accurately target at ranges up to 200,000 kilometers," Patricia said quietly. "We outrange them by more than double." "They know that too," Jake realized. "That's why they're afraid." The communications officer interrupted. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. It's not in standard diplomatic format. It appears to be a military channel. Put it through," Jake ordered. The alien who appeared on screen wore what was clearly a military uniform, and his expression was stern. "Human vessel. This is Fleet Commander Silrith of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. You are ordered to power down all weapon systems and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Jake felt anger flash through him. "Fleet Commander, you have entered our system without permission and without responding to our identification requests. You are the ones who need to explain your presence here. Your planet possesses illegal weapons technology," Silrith stated flatly. "The Galactic Council has authorized us to ensure compliance with established laws. We were given 48 hours to respond," Jake countered. "That time hasn't expired, and you have no authority to make demands in our space." Silrith's expression hardened. "You are in no position to refuse. Stand down your weapons, or we will interpret your actions as hostile." Jake muted the channel and turned to his crew. Options? We can't fight 30 ships, his tactical officer said bluntly. We don't have to fight them, Patricia interjected. We just have to make them understand we could. Jake studied the sensor display showing the approaching fleet and the Sentinels' targeting solutions. Patricia picked the largest asteroid in sensor range, something big enough to make an impression. Sir? She asked, though her fingers were already moving to comply. We're going to give them a demonstration, Jake explained. Show them exactly what our railguns can do without actually shooting at their ships. If they're smart, they'll reconsider their approach. He opened the channel again. Fleet Commander Silrith. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our home. I'm going to show you why you should think very carefully before proceeding. Are you threatening us? Silrith demanded. I'm educating you, Jake replied calmly. Patricia, target asteroid designation Charlie 7 and fire a single railgun round. The Sentinel's primary railgun battery hummed with power as magnetic coils charged to full capacity. The massive barrel aligned with mathematical precision on an asteroid roughly 2 kilometers across that orbited between Earth and Mars. Firing. Patricia announced the projectile launched in complete silence, accelerated by electromagnetic forces to 4% of light speed. It crossed the distance to the asteroid in less than 30 seconds, and when it struck, the result was spectacular. The kinetic energy of the impact vaporized the entire asteroid instantly. Rock that had existed for billions of years simply ceased to exist in a fraction of a second, replaced by an expanding cloud of superheated plasma that glowed bright enough to be visible from Earth. The alien fleet's sensors recorded every detail of the destruction, and Fleet Commander Silrith watched in horror as his tactical computer calculated what would have happened if that shot had been aimed at his flagship. They could have destroyed us before we even knew we were in range. His weapons officer whispered. Sylph stared at the still glowing debris field where the asteroid had been. How many of those weapons does the human station possess? Sensors indicate 8 railgun batteries, the officer replied. All currently tracking our vessels on the Sentinel. Jake watched the alien fleet's formation waver. Fleet Commander, you now understand what we're capable of. But notice that we chose to destroy a rock instead of firing on your ships. We had you at our mercy, and we showed you mercy. Jake continued. That should tell you something about humanity's intentions. Silrith made a decision that would later be credited with preventing a war. All ships, halt your advance and hold position, human vessel. I request a ceasefire while we discuss this situation. Granted, Jake agreed. But our weapons stay online. Understood, Silrith acknowledged. Realizing he had no choice, the fleet commander immediately sent an urgent message back to the Galactic Council. This is Silrith reporting. The humans had clear tactical advantage and chose not to engage. Repeat. They showed restraint when they could have destroyed us. I am recommending immediate reconsideration of our approach. High Counselor Zephyr received the message and felt profound relief. Humanity had passed a crucial test without even knowing they were being tested. Counselor Threndak, however, reacted with fury. This changes nothing. They possess forbidden weapons and must be disarmed. They possess those weapons and chose not to use them, Zephyr countered. The Catharn would have fired without hesitation. Perhaps these humans are different. The debate raged through the council chambers while Jake Morrison kept his weapons trained on the alien fleet, and President Webb tried desperately to establish diplomatic channels before someone made a fatal mistake. Admiral Bennett stood in Earth Defense Headquarters watching tactical displays. We're balanced on a knife edge, one wrong move from either side, and this turns into a shooting war. Then we better make sure we don't make that wrong move, Webb said firmly. The neutral station orbited Jupiter at a distance that kept it safely away from the planet's intense radiation belts. It was a small facility that had been built by humanity for refueling and resupply operations. But now it hosted the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. President Marcus Webb arrived aboard a small shuttle with minimal security, accompanied only by Admiral Kyle Bennett and Dr. Lisa Chang. He had insisted on keeping the delegation small to show good faith, though part of him worried this might be a fatal mistake. High Counselor Zephrain's shuttle docked on the opposite side of the station at exactly the same moment, demonstrating the careful coordination that both sides had agreed upon. He brought Fleet Commander Silrith and an ancient being introduced as Elder Mashallah, whose species had witnessed the Catharn Wars firsthand. The two groups met in the station's central conference room, which had been stripped of any decorations or symbols that might favor one side over the other. It was just tables, chairs, and the cold reality of decisions that needed to be made. "Thank you for coming," Webb began, choosing to speak first as a gesture of openness. "We understand the fear our weapons have caused, and we want to find a path forward that works for everyone." Zephrain inclined his head respectfully. "We appreciate your willingness to negotiate." President Webb. Many on the council expected humanity to refuse dialogue entirely. "We're not the Catharn Empire," Webb stated firmly. "And we never will be." Elder Mashallah spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Words are easy." President Webb. The Catharn also promised peace in the beginning, before their hunger for conquest grew too strong to resist. Dr. Lisa Chang stepped forward. "Elder, with respect, may I explain how humanity developed railgun technology? Perhaps understanding our history will help address your concerns." The ancient being gestured for her to continue. Lisa activated a holographic display showing Earth's timeline. "We discovered electromagnetic principles in the late 1700s by your calendar. At first, it was just scientific curiosity, trying to understand how nature worked. The images shifted to show early experiments and gradual technological progress. By the 1900s, we had developed basic electromagnetic acceleration for research purposes." Lisa continued, "But Earth was and is a harsh world, higher gravity than most inhabited planets, extreme weather variations, and unfortunately, we spend much of our history fighting each other. This drove weapons development," Silrith observed. "Yes," Lisa admitted without shame. "We were not unified as a species until quite recently. Our conflicts pushed rapid innovation in many areas, including military technology." She showed footage of Earth's diverse environments and the challenges they posed. Survival on our world required strength, adaptability, and constant innovation. Railguns emerged from that same drive to solve problems through applied physics. Elder Mashallah studied the human carefully. "You speak of your violent history without trying to hide it, because hiding it would be pointless." Lisa replied, "We are what our world made us: tough, inventive, and yes, capable of great violence, but also capable of learning from our mistakes." Webb took over the explanation. "We unified our world 30 years ago. After narrowly avoiding nuclear war, we learned that cooperation serves us better than conflict. And we've built our entire spacefaring culture on that principle. Then why maintain such powerful weapons?" Zephrain asked. Admiral Bennett answered this time, "Because the universe is vast and unknown. We had no idea there were other civilizations out here, and we needed to be able to defend ourselves against whatever we might encounter. A reasonable precaution," Silrith admitted. "I would have done the same in your position." Webb saw an opening. "Fleet Commander, you witnessed our capabilities firsthand. Do you believe we're planning conquest?" Silrith considered his words carefully before responding. "No. I do not. Conquerors don't give warnings. They don't show restraint. And they don't agree to negotiations when they hold overwhelming tactical advantage." Some on the council would disagree with that assessment. Zephrain said quietly, then some on the council are letting fear blind them to reality, Elder Mashallah declared. Surprising everyone in the room, the ancient being stood slowly. I have lived through centuries of galactic history, and I remember the Cathon Wars with perfect clarity. These humans are not Cathar. How can you be certain? Zephyrain asked. Because the Cathon gloried in destruction, Mashallah explained. They broadcast their victories. They made monuments to their conquests. They wanted the galaxy to fear them. These humans destroyed an asteroid and then immediately offered to talk. Webb felt hope stirring. Elder Mashallah, what would it take for the Council to accept our presence with our current weapons? The ancient being turned her wise eyes on the human leader. Trust cannot be built in a single meeting. President Webb, but perhaps we can build a framework for that trust to grow over the next several hours. The group hammered out the basics of an agreement that would shock the Galactic Council. Dr. Lisa Chang proposed sharing railgun technology under strict oversight rather than abandoning it entirely. If you try to suppress our technology, you'll only drive it underground, she argued. But if you bring us into the galactic community and help us understand your concerns, we can work together. Zephyrain was skeptical. You would share weapons technology that gives you such advantage? We would share it under conditions that ensure it's used only for defense, Webb clarified. Think of it as mutual accountability. You get transparency into our capabilities. We get guidance from your experience. Fleet Commander Silrith surprised everyone by supporting the idea. It has merit. Council attempting to disarm them by force would cost thousands of lives, and even if we succeeded, the resentment would guarantee future conflict. And if we try to isolate them, Mashallah added, they will continue developing weapons in secret, possibly creating technology even more dangerous than what they have now. Zephyrain was quiet for a long moment. You're proposing we bring humanity into the Confederation as provisional members? With conditions and oversight, Webb agreed. We'll accept a moratorium on railgun proliferation. Say 50 years while the galaxy processes this change. And in exchange? Zephyrain asked. Full membership rights, Admiral Bennett stated. Access to galactic trade, cultural exchange, technological cooperation in non-weapons areas, and a voice in council decisions. Some species will never accept this, Zephyrain warned. Then they'll have to get used to being uncomfortable, Elder Mashallah said firmly. Because isolation and suppression are not sustainable solutions. I learned that lesson during the Cathon Wars. The negotiations continued through the night, with both sides making compromises. Humanity agreed to train a joint task force that would control railgun deployment, ensuring the weapons were used only against external threats to the Confederation in return. Earth would receive protection under galactic law, access to advanced non-weapons technology, and most importantly, recognition as a sovereign civilization with rights equal to any other member species when the final agreement was drafted. President Webb looked at the document with mixed feelings. This isn't everything we hoped for, but it's far better than war. Zephyrain observed. It's a beginning, Elder Mashallah corrected. Trust takes time to build, but this framework gives us that time. 3 months later, Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the horizon as it joined a mixed-species patrol fleet. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, was training a Voxian counterpart on proper railgun safety protocols. The key is treating every shot as if lives depend on it, Amy explained. Because they do. The Voxian student nodded seriously. We will honor the responsibility these weapons carry on Earth. President Webb addressed a crowd gathered to celebrate humanity's provisional acceptance into the Galactic Confederation. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, and instead we found fear, but through patience, restraint, and honest dialogue. We turned that fear into the beginning of trust in the Galactic Council chambers. Elder Marshala watched the human celebration on the view screen. They may yet teach us something important, that strength wielded with wisdom is more powerful than strength wielded with fear. High Counselor Zephrane stood beside her. I hope you're right. Elder, I truly hope you're right. Time will tell, Marshala replied. But I believe these humans understand something the Cathar never did, that the greatest victories come not from conquest, but from choosing peace when you have the power to choose war.